The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please, order. Reels of Justice is now in session. Judge Dylan D. Defense presiding. Will you all rise for the Right Honorable Dylan D. Defense?
Be seated. Today we are hearing the case of The People versus The Shape of Water. Set in 1962, it tells the story of a mute custodian who falls in love with an amphibian humanoid who's imprisoned in a high-security government laboratory. For those unfamiliar with our court's proceedings, we are here to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. As always in this courtroom, films are to be considered excellent until proven awful. And the burden of proof lies upon the prosecution to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this film is guilty. Ms. Hanson, it looks like you are appearing on behalf of the prosecution. You may begin your opening statement.
Thank you. Distinguished members of the jury, imagine for a moment that you're one of the most celebrated directors working today. You have almost unlimited access to every resource imaginable. You can round up the most talented actors working today with a snap of your fingers. You've got more money than God. And then imagine that you take all of these infinite resources and you use them to make a movie that is known colloquially in my household only as Amelie Fucks the Fish Man. This is a beautifully shot film. It's undeniably gorgeous, but that beauty masks the fact that The Shape of Water is at its core a big, soggy, weird, ugly mess of a, Soviet panic fairy tale bestiality rom-com. But that description is also misleading because that movie sounds like so much fun, that movie I just described. But The Shape of Water somehow manages to be all these things and also a bafflingly boring and slow-paced movie, despite not being an especially long movie. Every character is a caricature. Every story beat can be seen coming from miles away, and let's face it, the entire thing stinks like hard-boiled eggs. Is this, and this is an honest question, is this movie supposed to be sexy in some way? Or romantic? I ask because I literally can't tell. If so, I ask you, as our esteemed jury, what is the sexy part supposed to be? Is it Michael Shannon squeezing pus out of his rotten pussy finger? Oh, his word, not mine.
Oh my.
Is it the beautiful underwater sex ballet that depicts our protagonist twirling nakedly with a creature whose breath probably still smells like the cat he ate in the previous scene? Like a buff, stoic Alf? I will never forgive this film for containing a scene wherein national treasure Octavia Spencer realizes that our beautiful Sally Hawkins has indeed fucked that Alf and reacts not with terror or concern about her friend's mental state, but instead with mild bemusement, saying, and I quote, "Never trust a man, even when he looks flat down there." Imagine you're about to bake a cake. You're an expert baker who is using only the finest ingredients. You've got the best oven, the fanciest cake pan, but baking is an art as well as chemistry, and even the best baker can fuck up. With The Shape of Water, you've got all the ingredients for the perfect cake, but it never turns into anything more than a pile of soggy ingredients that are confusing and smell like hard-boiled eggs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hanson. Mr. Haslar, you are appearing for the defense. You may present your opening statement.
If I spoke about it, if I did, what would I tell you? I wonder. Would I say it's a transformation of old monster films like The Creature from the Black Lagoon? I believe it is. Would I say it's a heist movie, a romance thriller? I'm sure all of these are true. I think perhaps I would say it's a fairy tale for those who have been ostracized by a system put in place by a majority. It speaks of acceptance. It speaks of love being love. A bit too on the nose at times, perhaps, but then again, perhaps not. The film uses the 60s, the time of Martin Luther King Jr., as a backdrop for a love story of two very different creatures wanting something that society as a whole wasn't ready for. Have things really changed at all since then? Perhaps The Shape of Water wasn't on the nose enough. This film is a love letter to the lonely, the counted out, the different, the weird, those desolate souls longing for a place to belong. A fairy tale set in troubled times, and it demands your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Haslar. Prosecution, you may now proceed with making your case.
This is very interesting. I find it very interesting that in the midst of your opening statement, you call it too on the nose. That to me speaks volumes. I feel like here's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, which is the prevalence of movies where a woman is in love with a beast and the lack of movies that show us the opposite. So while I was watching this, and I did just finish rewatching it, and for my second time watching Shape of Water, I thought that I was going to be able to spite watch it, and just like fly through that thing and just be like, I'm so fueled up. I've got so much anger like I did the first time. But this was just, I kept putting it on pause and then walking away and not wanting to come back.
You go to your bunk, I imagine.
Yeah, just a hard. It was a slog just now. But I'll say it got me thinking a lot in those slow, meditative times in the middle of scenes where my mind could just wander. It got me thinking about what this movie would look like if the genders were reversed, and how uncomfortable a movie about a guy who, and I'm not talking about Splash.
What about The Little Mermaid?
I'm not talking about The Little Mermaid. I'm not talking about Splash. I'm talking about a movie where, because here's the problem. Here's one of the many problems for me, is that the thing that initially attracts our lead to the Fishman is that he's literally just there. There is no there. He does not do anything in the beginning that that initial attraction comes from nothing more than what you could get from literally just a dog.
I'm going to object to that. I think sometimes love is sometimes like obfuscated from someone from the outside. You don't necessarily know what it is that two people see in each other. She's a very lonely person, and this is a person who's willing to dialogue with her. That on its own is enough to establish a connection.
Excuse me there, Mr. Haslar. Before we sustain or overrule your objection, I think it might be prudent if the prosecution could maybe explain a bit more of the nature of how the two protagonists met.
Sure.
Yes, of course. Of course. So Eliza, our protagonist, is working as a maid or a cleaning worker in
a custodian.
Custodian. Yes. There are fancy words. We've all got them. No, you're right. So she's working as a custodian in this top secret government lab facility, and was just cleaning away, being her bad self in there one day, and sees the asset, who is a Fishman, who's busy, harming people and yelling in his, swiping around with his claws. He just bit somebody's fingers off, and she sees him and is like, "Whoa, what's up with this sexy fish?" And it makes me wonder. Should I allow you to get back to your objection, or do I keep? I'm just going to keep going. The thing that it makes me think about is, what if not just what if it makes me think a lot of things, but one of the main things it makes me think is, okay, what if this movie was exactly the same except for the Fishman was just a dolphin? Because
I believe that movie was made, and this film kind of got sued for copyright infringement because of that, and it got thrown out because it was ridiculous. But yeah, there was a film about a woman falling in love with a dolphin.
Okay, all right. So,
I can't remember. I could look it up maybe.
well, shit. Now I want to watch that movie because that sounds like a movie that at least depending on how it's told, maybe is subversive, has a little point of view, has a something, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, if you picture this movie being exactly the same, except for she's falling in love with a dolphin, dolphins are intelligent. Apparently, dolphins are horny. I don't know. I've heard that though. They have communication ability. They're sensitive, they're playful. um that's not a love story. That's a story about somebody who's got deep issues and has some weird stuff going on. That's not a romantic story to me.
So is it the prosecution's conjecture that the fishman is more of an animal than a man properly understood?
Absolutely. And as Richard Jenkins says in the movie, he is an animal. We cannot expect him to be anything else. So I would even go so far as to posit that it would be a much more interesting movie if it took a darker turn and he did show himself to be more of an animal than we see in the movie, because
I'm going to
he
adapt again
bites.
on the same grounds, if I may.
I would like to hear the defense respond to this animal versus man narrative.
Okay.
Well, for one, Giles isn't in love with the creature, so we can't take his dialogue as to what the creature's value is. But there's a line in the movie that very much explains the depth of their relationship. She's signing to him, and she says, "I move my mouth like him. I make no sound like him. What does that make me?" That is the similarity between the two. That is what their connection is. The other people can't understand it because their love is different than what traditional love might look like, especially in the 60s.
All right, thank you. That's an interesting point for the jury to chew on. Prosecution, you may resume your case.
By the way, the dolphin story looks like it's called Let Me Hear You Whisper.
Interesting. Okay, well, that's going on the list. I definitely want to find out about that.
Oh, we know what dolphins sound like when they whisper. Right?
Apparently it's a play, though.
Yeah, I think that this movie falls short of being what it is actually about, which is a very lonely woman who is looking to connect with something, with anything. And as she says, he sees me. Okay, you can be seen. So that's why I say literally just existing in the same space as this fishman guy creature thing is enough to get her all horned up about him. And and to me, that could be an interesting story, but to frame it as a romance, an equally footed romance, is not satisfying in any way. I find nothing about the story romantic or satisfying on an emotional level.
Well, let me throw this at you, if I may. Especially in the 60s, the character of Giles is a gay man, and he's sort of rejected by society. I think that the framing of the 60s was very intentional on Guillermo del Toro's part, because people would see, like, they would describe it just the way you did. A man loving a man, I can't see that. That's just, there'd be no enjoyment for me out of that.
Yeah. I mean, so you're looking at what I think about the possible parallels between the other romantic stories, or the potential romantic stories in the film, correct?
Well, I mean, there's just the one, but I think that it's meant to be sort of, the film as a whole is meant to be a love letter to the LGBT community.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would counter that by saying that that the LGBTQ community is often lumped in with acts of deviance in a way that they do not deserve. So just like anybody who would say, like, obviously we know that the false historic equivalency of gay people are pedophiles is absolutely incorrect. There are also, for every person who says, oh, like the argument comes back every time gay marriage comes up. Oh, we should allow gay people should be allowed to get married. People should be allowed to marry whoever they want. There's always going to be some asshole who's like, what if I marry my dog? Is that okay? and to me, so I think these are completely separate issues. And I think that trying to make it an LGBT community issue or a shared story is completely inaccurate, completely incorrect.
You don't think the framing of that time and using Giles as sort of another character to show like a person who's longing for love wasn't intentional on Guillermo's part?
Defense, can we get a little more information on this Giles character? There aren't too many main characters in this movie, so I think it would be worth fleshing him out a bit.
Sure. So Giles is the next door neighbor to the custodian, to Eliza, and he's an artist. He's older, he's past his prime. He's always remarking on that. Even the art that he does, it's advertising, and they want to move into print ads at this time. So he's the only person who can understand Eliza. He knows her sign language, and he's just the gay best friend who she can sort of converse with about everything that's going on in her mind.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I think that there's something about, I am bothered by the fact that Eliza's two best friends go along with helping her. I do feel like okay, so Giles and Eliza are both misfits. Fantastic. But I do feel like if any of them were real friends to her, they would have tried to stop her from fucking the fish man. Personally, if I had
could you flesh out the other friend that you had mentioned? I beve that would be the
Zelda?
Octavia Spencer character.
Yes, Zelda, right?
Yes, Zelda.
Yes. So Eliza's best friend who works at the secret lab with her is played by Octavia Spencer, the wonderful Octavia Spencer.
The national treasure, Octavia Spencer.
National treasure. Thank you. Dame Octavia Spencer.
The court does recognize Octavia Spencer as a national treasure. Please continue.
Yeah. Yes. Let the record state. So they're best friends. They work together in the lab. Their relationship seems to be based mostly on the fact that Octavia Spencer clearly has nobody to talk to, and Eliza has no option other than to listen. They do seem to have some kind of real connection. But, as Octavia Spencer states over and over, her husband doesn't listen to her. So she's sort of surrounded by people who won't listen to her. So she's always speaking at great length to Eliza. And then when push comes to shove, she helps the heist to get the asset out of the secret lab.
And I believe that was the point you were going to start making about how the friends helped her on this plot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like her friend. Well, I was about to say I think that her friend should have stopped her from doing this, but I really just feel like they should have stopped her from starting a relationship with the fish man, because there's sort of the conflating of two different issues that keeps happening in this story. One is what makes us human? What can we do to help a creature? What can we do to help an animal? How do we show that we care for something outside of ourselves? And the other issue is, should we allow our friend to then have a relationship, as it were, with this fishman that we just stole out of a lab? And do we react to that like it's cute? Do we react to it like, oh, all men are the same, even when they have a secret penis that comes out from behind sliding doors or whatever?
I sure hope so.
That would be stricken from the record, Mr.
Fine, that's fine. But the point is, I do feel like I feel like they're terrible friends, and I feel like at the end of the day, them trying to help her is ultimately a sign that they are not fully fleshed out characters. I don't think that they are written enough to be to deserve the place in the story that they have. And that's unfortunate because I think they're both such fantastic actors. Richard Jenkins and Octavia Spencer are so wonderful, and I would watch them in anything. But I feel like that with everybody in this movie. Everybody is so good, and it makes me upset to see them wasted.
Well, you're still operating under the assumption that their love is bad, like when you're saying that they shouldn't help her or that they should have stopped her and all that, and that still just speaks to like the love story that is those ostracized by society. It's how many times have you tried to stop a friend from doing a relationship you believe to be bad but they thought was good, and you know, it works out fine in the end because they see something in the other person that you don't.
Mm-hmm. That's accurate. I mean, you can't live inside somebody else's relationship. You can't see it from their eyes. But I will say that if I was friends with somebody who was like, I'm gonna go, I'm a zookeeper at the zoo, and I'm gonna go fuck that monkey, I'd be like, no, you are not.
But a monkey is not the same as this fish man. This fish man can sign language. He's intelligent. He knows
Gorillas
things.
can sign. You teach them sign language.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. I wasn't
teach
expecting that.
See, that's the little lawyer switcheroo. I gotcha.
I'm worried that we're going to start setting some dangerous precedents here.
Dangerously fun, you mean?
Well, it is playing off of the creature from the Black Lagoon in the way that like it's expecting that you'd like a movie like that with a creature who's always like lusting after the dame, and in this case it reverses that. Usually the monster doesn't get the girl, but in this case it's saying that, you know, what if he did?
Yeah, absolutely. It you know, not to go down too much of a road of what would make this movie more enjoyable for me, because that's not really the point. But I will say that this time when I was watching it, I couldn't help but think, and this is going to sound truly terrible, so I'm going to say it anyway. For me, it would be maybe potentially a perfect movie. Maybe not perfect, but it would be so interesting, especially with the lead up of he's an animal. You can't expect him to be different than an animal. If they got into their sexy bathroom full of water scene and he just bit Sally Hawkins' head off.
Oh my goodness.
And then, because then the friends have to figure out then it's like, oh shit, we really have been going about this the wrong way. Now we have to figure out, do we treat this creature like an animal? Do we treat and help it, or do we treat it like an intelligent creature? Because this movie goes back and forth so rapidly between the two. I don't feel like it ever makes the decision that this creature can be trusted. I don't feel like it ever shows you that this is
well, it doesn't show you that it can be trusted like for other people, because it's like it's only so long. He does bite the other cat's head off. I'll grant you that. But I think that's like sort of meant to like show that this thing is just different than what other people expect it to be. They're trying to put it in a box of like, this is what a normal person does, a normal person society. And this creature's never, ever going to fit into that. That's not the point, though. Their love is still beautiful because it is different, because it is unique.
Well, I guess what I'm most curious about is, what about it do you find satisfying in their love story? Is it just two misfits finding each other? Is it as simple as that?
It is as simple as that for me. And beyond that, it's just beautiful to look at. It's very, like I said in my opening statement, it's a fairy tale for modern times. And it flows very much as so. Their love scene in the bathroom, for example, is just gorgeous to look at.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is all beautiful, but I do feel like it it is making such a, it's so strange to me that this film makes such a makes such an ambiguous statement about animals and people and whether this creature is a creature or not, and then sort of the fact that it's treated romantically, but never the ambiguities are never really delved into. It just leaves me completely cold on the emotional front of the
Well,
movie.
do you like those old Universal monster films that usually would like try to show some humanity within the monster, like Frankenstein and Creature from the Black Lagoon, which is this is somewhat based on?
Yeah, absolutely. I love those movies.
So what's the
I
difference
love
there?
I love there being something that is evocative of a connection. I love that there is tension, push pull between characters. I love being able to look at something that is scary and being able to see the humanity. But to me, that goes back to the questions that this movie has about what makes us human and what we can do to help others, rather than turning it specifically romantic. You know what I mean? I think it's gorgeous that she sees an intelligent creature and makes a connection and wants to help it. I think it tells a very different story once the woman falls in love with the fish man.
But if you're okay with the fish man wanting the woman in the Creature from the Black Lagoon and saying that sort of thing humanizes it and gives it soul, what's lacking in this film for you? Because if anything, the fish man in this one is more human. It looks like, with the CGI and everything, it looks like more endearing.
Mm-hmm. Well, for one thing, quick objection. I don't think anything about the fish man is endearing. I would never say. I feel like he looks like an animal that eats the heads off of cats. He's a fancy elf.
You don't like the way that its like eyes look at you and like the way its gills like sort of perk up when it's curious about something?
I mean, as an animal, sure, but I'm never gonna look. I'm never gonna look at the fish man and be like, "Sup." He's got abs, but I
in this
don't.
film, that's what makes it great, because it does so much with like a silent medium. Both of these things can't talk, so this couldn't be a book. This is a film. Only film can like show you these things.
Which is interesting, because I feel like I haven't thought this before, but when you say that, I think, okay, if this was a book, if you could get some POV, some thought, some intelligent, emotional POV thought from the creature, I would feel completely different about it. Maybe.
You need that POV thought from Eliza? I mean, she doesn't talk either.
No, but she operates in the human world as a human, as somebody that I can identify with, as, somebody who shows that she cares about people beyond just basic instinct.
I think we've done a lot in establishing whether or not the creature could be considered to have humanity or is too bestial, and I think the jury's going to be able to chew on that. Unless there's another point you wanted to make about that, I think we'd be safe to move on to the next line of argumentation.
Yeah, cool to move on. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, here's just another little tidbit to throw into the mix. I feel like I certainly feel like Guillermo del Toro has maybe watched Amelie too many times, because the parallels between this movie and that movie are so vivid to me that even stylistically, story-wise, I feel like at some point he may have seen Amelie and thought, what if I made this but made it weirder, which sounds appealing. However, I feel like a lot of it is rehashing of that.
Could you give us a brief rundown of Amelie, please?
Yes, absolutely.
And the connections that you're making here.
Amelie is a French film from, I want to say, like 2005?
2001.
2001. I'm living in the future. Thank you. 2001. And it's about a woman who is in a little bit of an arrested development, sort of forever young situation in her life, who takes great pleasure in simple joys but whose life is lacking something larger. She lives in sort of a fairy tale world. She's searching for an adventure, sort of an epic adventure in her life, and winds up
falls in love with a fish man.
winds up falling in love with the fishman. So strange, right? Anyway, she winds up being caught up in a romance, and it changes her life in a sort of fairy tale kind of way. But a lot of the visual storytelling between the two are really similar. The fact that her friend is the next door neighbor old guy who's a painter, who she takes care of. There's just the fact that The Shape of Water for some reason is just sort of generally Frenchy feeling, and I think a lot of that comes from the music. But there's but then also
the Academy Award-winning music, I might add.
Oh, well, ooh la la. The fact that the character of Eliza is styled so similarly to Amelie, it's just very interesting to me. There's a lot of it feels, and that movie is a movie that I enjoyed when it came out, but it feels like a lot of what people like about Shape of Water, especially the visual style, I feel like almost comes directly from Amelie.
Well, the defense hasn't seen Amelie, so I can't really comment. But
so you're saying I win?
But I do think that filmmakers can sometimes accidentally copy themes that have been done before, because with thousands and thousands of films being made, you're going to run over some of the same themes eventually. And also, filmmakers like to pay homage to other films that have sort of built their line of thinking. It's sort of a way to pay tribute, if you will, to what made them. So that doesn't make the film bad, even if it's true. But I can't comment if it's true or not because I haven't seen it.
We will have to let the jury decide.
That's pretty much it for that point. And I'm close to. I feel like I've talked a lot, so I'm close to coming to a point. But I do want to add that one of my major issues with this movie is that I do feel like nobody is utilized. None of the actors are utilized for what they can really do. I feel like
even Michael Shannon.
Oh, especially Michael Shannon. I feel like he is given a one-note character and he chews it up. Like he does every single thing he can with it. But even from the first scene, none of the characters ever surprise you. And it really bothers me. What your first impression of them is turns out to be, in my experience, the same throughout. In the first scene,
I think that's part of the tribute to the films like Creature of the Black Lagoon. In the case of Michael Shannon's character, he's meant to be sort of a reversal. Like if you take the sequel to The Creature from the Black Lagoon, A Revenge of the Creature, I think Strickland, Michael Shannon's character, is somewhat based on that, but he's meant to be a villain. He would be the hero normally. And then Revenge of the Creature, they're shocking the gill man with a cattle prod, just exactly as this creature does. But what this does is it looks at that time period and says, this is sort of toxic masculinity that we were sort of blind to at the time. So it looked great in Revenge of the Creature. We made this person to be the hero, but in this, we're going to reverse it and show toxic white masculinity as what it is.
But don't you feel like that would maybe be a more satisfying character to watch or to play if it had some element of nuance to it? The characterization of that, the portrayal of that character, as I see it, the only subtlety or nuance that is brought to it comes directly from Michael Shannon. I don't think it's. I think he is doing everything he can with the character that is written absurdly simplistically. Even from the first scene, we see him, peeing in the urinal with the two women there.
It's a great scene.
Talking about how if you wash your hands too much, it shows weakness. Even down to, eating candy in the bathroom, and then as he leaves saying, you're great to talk to, when neither of the women have said a single goddamn word since he came in the room.
Exactly. That's so great about what that toxic masculinity is.
But it's so heavy-handed. So heavy-handed. He is not a character.
And I love how his wife, like in the next scene's like, did you wash your hand? Come wash your hand before we, do our thump upstairs.
Wash your hand. Now put your clean, good-smelling hand right on my boob, and then let's fuck. And you put your blood-soaked bandage over my face. It's like, I get the fucking point. Every scene, it feels like his evilness is being hammered into me to such
I'll tell you one. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you. I'll wrap up. Just to such a point that I felt so certain that there was going to be something else to this character, because it was so being hammered in that he's a bad guy, that I was coming up with these elaborate scenarios in my head. Like, oh, he's going to be the one who, he's going to help him in the end. He's going to something. He's going to anything. He's going to have another layer, because he only has one layer, and it keeps getting shown to us over and over in such a heavy way that there's no way that could be it. And then it turns out that that's it. Like, what a waste of his talent. Anybody could have played that part. He gives it more dimension by being the actor who plays that part, but I wanted there to be more there for him. Okay, now you go. That's how we do it. That's how we do it in the courtroom, right? Now you go.
Pretty much. So, prosecution, thank you for presenting your case. Defense, you may now present your case.
Well, just to go back on Strickland, one of my favorite scenes of him, like that sort of plays on like how people know who he is when the car salesman is trying to sell him a car and just telling him he's a man of the future, just like makes him instantly want it. He envisions himself in that way. And I think that's a scene that Michael Shannon goes sort of beyond just, oh, I'm the bad guy who's like talking down at women in the office. There's sort of, it's a character that people can sort of see through in a way. Would you agree with that?
I mean, that doesn't make me feel like there's more dimension to the character necessarily. I think he's shown from the very beginning as being evil and insecure. So I feel like that just leads into him being insecure.
All right. Let's see. What did we not do? Well, the thing is, I'm just not going to convince you on like certain pieces of this. If you don't like,
well, you have to convince the jury.
I have to convince the jury, exactly.
Yeah. So I don't fucking matter. Do you do your thing? I'm here.
I'm not going to convince you like the Fishman is a character that's worthy of falling in love, for example. But the jury hopefully can see that I've convinced them that not only does it look human, but it also has great creature design, like the bioluminescence. Looks great in this film. The gills perk up, and it's played by an actor, not by a performer.
Yeah.
Would you agree that the Fishman looks, regardless of how you feel about him, would you agree he looks perfect?
Oh, he's the design is amazing. Everything visually in this movie is amazing. But especially, I mean, Doug Jones is such a talented performer. He really combination of
you wouldn't know because he's always in behind a mask.
Yeah, but him and the suit, and you can always tell it's Doug Jones by how much acting he does with his hands, his fingers. He's just so talented.
Even the looks that the Fishman gives were like, scanned in via computer and just brought out that way.
Yeah. I know he's fantastic.
The score, as I already mentioned, is Academy Award winning, and it's a kind of score that's not overly brash, like something like Star Wars or Indiana Jones might be. It's something that reveals the subtle intentions of the moment. Would you agree with that, Counselor?
I'm curious. I would love an example of how that is happening.
Well, there's this one main theme that sort of plays from Eliza's perspective, and it's sort of a piano theme, and it starts very subtly, but it grows more and more prominent towards the end.
Yeah. Okay.
Would the defense please hum it for us? All right, thank you.
That does sound like a beautiful song. Thank you.
Well, that's jury to decide.
And the last thing I'd like to bring up is how well this film is crafted with the theme of water. Obviously, it's in the title. The love is shapeless, as is water, and it can take the form of whatever you need to put the water into. If you put it into a vessel, it takes that form. So that's what the shape of water is great, because you see it everywhere. Water's everywhere, and it's formless, and it takes the form of what you need once you see it, as this love did. To go further onto that, there's a lot of visuals with water. They actually painted the Great Wave off Hokkaido, painting by Hokusai, and into the apartment, and then they like sort of put wallpaper over it, so it's more obfuscated. And I would just like to plead to everybody that having the Great Wave as a mural in your living room is a pure sign of sanity. The fact that this counselor has one in his living room means absolutely nothing.
You're on thin ice, counselor. Please move on.
So are you suggesting that the water that goes through this movie is not just emotion but also sanity?
Yes, absolutely. To have that in your living room, it's just brilliant. Like only a sane person would have that.
Just like how they always say, you get swept away in a wave of sanity and rational thinking. Whoosh! Yeah,
exactly. Now you're speaking my language, counselor. It's good to have you on my side.
Pew pew. That was finger guns.
My final point is Rodney McKay from Stargate Atlantis is in this film, and he's far underutilized. The defense rests its case.
All right. Thank you, Ben, for the defense. So we will now move on to the closing arguments. And Ms. Hanson, you may present your closing argument.
Thank you. I may just be a small town actor playing a small town lawyer with big city dreams, but let me just suggest a scenario for you for just a moment. Imagine for a moment that I work at the zoo and I fall in love with a dolphin or a monkey, something that's smart, intelligent, sensitive. And then I tell you, my best friend, in confidence, that I am fucking it. How are you going to react? Is that a love story? Or is that a story of a woman who is deeply, deeply disturbed and needs help? I'll let you, the jury, be the judge of that. See,
well, I'll be the judge. They'll be the jury.
You'll be the. Listen, I may just be a small town actor playing a small town with big city dreams, but I know one thing: The Shape of Water is a big mess that with a lovely exterior, and there is nothing wrong with a lovely exterior, but does it tell the story that you're trying to tell? Does it tell a satisfying story? Does it tell a love story? Did it deserve any Oscars? I don't think so. Oscars are probably a sham anyway, but did it deserve awards? It's very pretty. If you want visual art, look at a painting. If you want pretty music, listen to some music. But if you're telling a story, it has to be a coherent story that is that means something to somebody. And to me, The Shape of Water is just a collection of ingredients that don't come together. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, prosecution. Ben, for the defense.
Peoples of the jury, we're here to determine if The Shape of Water is a bad film. Now, I will cede to the prosecution that this film isn't for everyone. I might even see that whether or not it's a better film than Dunkirk or any of the other nominees of that year is debatable depending on your taste. But how can it be debatable whether or not this is a bad film? It is unquestionably not. It's beautifully made, well acted, resonates strongly with several audiences, gorgeous to look at, has a soundtrack that's lovely to listen to. This is not a bad film. It's not even an okay film. This is a good film, jury members. If this film is bad, then we'd have to call Creature from the Black Lagoon a bad film. We'd have to call Dunkirk a bad film. Hell, whether or not Casablanca is a bad film might even be up for debate. I love this film very much. In fact, I think it's sad that this film will never know just how much I love it.
Order. Okay. So you're on
I thought I'd go for something, but I guess we're not ready for that.
God.
All right, fine. Let's address.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Maynard, I believe you are the foreman today?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, you are, which is why I'm going to tell the bailiff to take you into the jury room with the rest of the jurors.
Okay.
Bailiff?
Are you related to the Wisconsin Bangs by chance?
We're in now? Good.
Yeah.
Welcome to the jury deliberation room, members of the jury, where we are right now. Mr. Rodriguez, what were your feelings on the trial today?
Well, first, I would like to confirm that dolphins are horny. I have done extensive research to confirm this.
So.
All consensual research. I just want to point that out.
I mean, the research is consensual, but rarely are the dolphin attacks. They're kind of monsters.
So, interesting case here. I love this movie. I absolutely love it. But listening to the prosecution, first of all, I started swaying to her side when she mentioned both Alf and Amelie in the opening. That is a sure way to get me on your side. Second,
I believe Amelie was the little French girl that ate cats.
Yes.
From the planet Melmac. Yes, Amelie, of course.
Oh, very good.
And so the entire time I'm listening to this and I love this film and thinking, wait a second, fuck this film. These are some good points. Huh. And I honestly, like, a lot of it has to do with perspective because that's, I mean, love is such a strange thing. Nobody's going to react to it the same way. And a lot of the argument that the prosecution was making are pretty much her preferences in terms of how she views the story. But I'm actually torn at this moment because I came into this thinking that nobody could change my mind about this film, that I loved it too much. And now I am very much on the fence.
Mr. Schlender, what were your feelings?
You know, I'm actually not all that dissimilar from my companion Ryan here. The prosecution made some really strong arguments, and the shape of water. How about the depth of water? You know, these characters are so shallow. You know, as she was pointing out, they very much are one note. And you can argue that was a stylistic decision, maybe to encourage the fairy tale setting that the defense brought up. But you know, when the prosecution said, like, imagine the role reversal, like if this was like a female creature that a male custodian brought home, and it made me immediately think of the stories that I do know like that. There was a movie called Dead Girl where a teenage boy kept a zombie girl that he found in an old warehouse to use for his less than savory purposes. You know, he didn't give her a promise ring or nothing like that. Let you guys use your imagination. And I think if we were to have seen that situation and then imagine two male custodians talking, you know, and you have like a big male custodian being like, oh, hey man, like, did you know, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And like, he did this very lewd gesture with his hands and he's like, nice, bro, nice. I mean, we would all be disgusted, you know, we would be like, what the hell are we watching here? So, and then another point that she made too was just like the flippant nature of handling like what the defense called the LGBT or queer experience, you know, like trying to compare that and juxtapose that with a monster when you actually have, you know, a deeply closeted gay man in the film that might have been better at expressing those ideas, you know. So I think based on the arguments that were made, you know, and I love monster movies. I really like The Creature from the Black Lagoon. I like Guillermo del Toro. I think Pan's Labyrinth is just such an amazing movie. Which deserved to win Best Foreign Film, even though The Lives of Others was equally exceptional.
Yes, we all know about your lives of others tangent.
Yeah, well, I'm not going on the tangent. I just had to shoehorn it in real quick. Yeah, I really think that the prosecution made some very, very strong arguments that really pulled me a lot closer than I thought I would. So I'd be very interested to what you have to say, Mr. Foreman.
This is definitely a movie that I was watching and I was enjoying. Just to, you're talking about shallowness of characters, and I don't think the main characters have that. I think Eliza has a lot of depth, and I think Giles has more depth than Giles has more depth than we're giving him credit for. Not just that he's a closeted gay man, but he's one who really feels he's past his prime and broken down. So I think he has a few aspects to him. It does bother me that Giles only agrees to help her once he realizes his life is total shit, though. Like, he can't get his job back, he can't get the boy he likes, so then he agrees to risk his life helping her. But as far as Michael Shannon, his character is that he's one-dimensional. I mean, that is his personality. It's not a lack of personality. It's very much intentionally, I mean, we were able to use the term toxic masculinity again. It's another theme that's in this movie, similar to the previous movies we've had. So I agree with defense that I don't think that the characters are necessarily one-dimensional, except when it is intentionally that way.
No, Michael Shannon does some good things too. He shoots 2 communists. I mean, we can't discount that.
Yes, we all know. Don't go on your communist tangent either now.
It's the same tangent.
It's 3 communists, Mr. Counsel or Mr. Juror.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but Dimitri was a good guy. He's at the end, so
he was a communist. He was a communist. Now what? He was a communist. So he's a good guy, or was he a communist? Huh? And I think it's interesting that her accomplices are people that are all marginalized at that point in time. You've got, her best friend Octavia Butler. She's black. Giles is gay. And the third accomplice being Bob, Dimitri, is an undercover Soviet informant. So they're people who understand persecution in America in the 60s. And besides their relationship being, I think, a parallel to, as you said, the queer experience, I think there's a lot to interracial relationships that's going on there as well. Now, as far as things I agreed with the prosecution, did she have to fuck the fish man? It shocked me the first time.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, she did. Absolutely.
Why? I think as the prosecution said, does she have to fuck the creature in order to feel empathy for it?
That's Del Toro, man. That's Del Toro.
No, not to feel empathy, but to feel love. It's about love. That's what it is, and that's why, the prosecution, I think, made a good argument about how it kind of marginalizes those experiences that it's trying to celebrate, but instead it just makes it a little weird. And you were talking about the other characters. That was another thing the prosecution was saying. It's like they just lay it on so thick, It's like
it's not a subtle film. It's not a subtle film.
I guess that's true too. It's not subtle, and like I said, these can all be.
I would disagree.
These could all be creative decisions, But
I think there's subtle things it does, Ryan. But
getting hit over the head. I would be Ryan. You say it's subtle. I would like to hear what you think.
No, I don't think it's. No, to say that there is no. Are you saying that there's no subtlety in it?
No, I'm not saying there's no subtlety, but
I'd say broadly it's not subtle.
No, of course not. It's an open.
Yeah, metaphor. I think there are little subtle things. For instance, in the movie theater, one of the movies playing is the story of Ruth, which is about a woman who falls in love with a man and rescues him from. Basically, the man is enslaved in a quarry, and she ends up rescuing him from that quarry. And in the middle of the escape, he's fatally wounded, and so they get married in a cave, but he dies almost immediately after. So that's I
really like the way the fishman looked standing in the middle of the theater like that. That was, the movie's just so well shot too.
It is. It's a gorgeous film.
Yeah, I love the aesthetic. The car I'm not a car guy at all, but I want a 1960s Cadillac. I think
you deserve one because you are a man of the future.
Yes, I know, right? That's what I was saying after watching the movie. It's like I missed my calling. I wish I was a Cadillac salesman in the 60s.
Oh, that's what you were talking about. Okay, that
Yes,
makes more
that's
sense.
what I
All
meant.
right. Well done, sir.
Yeah, Ryan's just like, oh, crazy old Dylan again, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
You wanted to
I just don't know if the relationship had to go sexual. And you're saying, okay, it's Del Toro, it has to go sexual. But I don't know. Like, she can still have camaraderie with this creature and feel a connection to it.
about that, though.
I mean, and then at the end of the day, it's really not. It's kind of not an interspecies relationship, is it? Because she's clearly some sort of fish person. She has gills, and she can breathe underwater, and she can control. She has water bending magic.
I think that in order to fully understand why she has sex with the creature, you kind of have to understand Del Toro's kind of mindset. Everything that
I don't
he does
care
is
about his mindset.
perverse.
I care about Eliza's.
No, valid. But if we're asking why this character had sex with the fishman, that is, with Del Toro, everything has to be at least a little perverse, or else it isn't worth doing. Like, this is a guy who makes horror movies, and in the background of his shots, he has to have fetuses in jars, and somebody asks him, why are you doing that? And he says, well, I don't know, it's a horror movie. Don't they have fetuses in jars? That's just who he is.
I do remember when he had Hellboy. I do remember when he had Hellboy shove that giant red fist up Abe Sapien's ass, and I thought that scene was weird too.
You're sick,
no, you accidentally were watching one of Ben's animes, I think.
Oh yes.
That would make a better movie, though. By the way,
this is a tough one. I do think this is
a tough one. There's
great arguments. I love it. As mentioned, I love an Alf reference. You know, as far as replying to there being no initiation in the romance, I think she is kind of scared of the creature initially, but she realizes, kind of as she explains to Giles later, that they're both mute, they can't communicate verbally, and I think she instantly kind of felt a rapport there. So if I was leaning to anything, I would be leaning towards not guilty, but with the caveat that it's a very weird movie, and I don't know that I would have given it an Academy Award, but it's just so pretty. I like broad caricatures if they're saying something broad about society, even at one time. And the Fishman does look awesome. I love these kind of sparkly and glittery like a goldfish.
It has a great
so right now I'm leaning
Patrick level to it.
Yeah, nice. I'm leaning to not guilty. You know, with that tiny caveat. So,
Dylan, you want to go?
Yeah. You know, I just really liked the prosecution's arguments, but I think the defense kept it tight and continually pointed out the strengths of the movie, and a lot of those strengths were even conceded by the prosecution, and a lot of that had to do with the aesthetic of the film. And when you get down to it, that is why it's a film. It's a visual medium, and to just knock it out of the park like that, you can forgive some of the weirdness, and I'm going to say not guilty based on that.
So, I think that, well, yeah, as I said, I went in this not guilty, but then the argument of, what if we swap their genders? That was the turning point. That was, I can't go back from that point, because I couldn't think of anything else past that point. Just like, yeah, what if they, oh yeah, that's fucked up. So,
if they swap their genders, it would be Ben's favorite movie.
Oh yeah.
So in order to make this kind of not unanimous, and because I'm still on the fence, I'm going to go guilty.
Okay. Well, hey, that's fair.
It was 2 versus 3. But
it was a good argument either way, you know. It really was.
No, it was very close. I mean, I think we didn't know how we'd go. So let's go out there and deliver the verdict.
All right, Mr. Maynard, on behalf of the jury, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. In the case of The People versus The Shape of Water, we find the accused not guilty of being a bad movie.
Woo! Hot dog!
All right. Very good, very good. Counselors, thank you for your time. Court is adjourned.
Miss Hanson, would you care to share your thoughts on today's verdict?
Well, I guess it's back to lawyer, law school, correspondence, mail-in school, or whatever for me. We had him, we had him in the first quarter, but we couldn't quite make it to the end zone and get all the points. Our guys really put on a good game, but you win some, you lose some, but we're coming back for the Super Bowl. So, go team.
Thank you. And where are you going to go now?
Disneyland.
They're shut right now,
Closed
unfortunately.
at the moment.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Mr. Haslar, how did you feel about the jury's verdict today?
Well, when this case first came across my desk, my first thought was the Academy Award-winning film. Oh, this is going to be a slam dunk. But, the prosecution did make me sweat a little bit. I do love the film, but there's shallowness of the characters there that I didn't quite see in my first viewing. But I'm sticking to my guns and saying it's a good film and that the court came to the right decision today. And for some reason, I really want some fish sticks. So I'm going to go get some. Later.
Thank you very much, I think. That's all we have from the courthouse today. Let's go back to the studio for post-trial analysis. That was a great one.
Fantastic.
I got to say, I think this was maybe my favorite opening arguments, definitely from both sides
Yeah.
that we've had for a case.
Agreed.
Oh, sure.
I'll make a note
phenomenal.
to Alf more in my opening arguments.
Oh, I mean, not only...
And Amelie.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and not only, was Liesel's opening stuff with Alf great, but Ben, I just loved you drawing from the opening of the film itself. I thought it was
maybe a little bit too
No, it was perfectly calibrated. That was
as the verdict proved today, you can't be too on the nose around here.
So
especially not with this movie.
So I was reading some of the because there's not a lot of negative criticism of this movie out there, so I went hunting for some, and the arguments that they were made, I was thinking like, okay, this might be a little thin, but then Liesel, you actually made a lot of those same kind of arguments and put them in a really good context.
Did I? Nice.
Yeah, so it worked out really well because I was wondering, I was like, well, she has a case if she talks about these things, and those were the things you talked about. So I thought,
nice.
Right on the head as far as where to criticize the movie.
I'm happy to hear that. I mean, here's the thing about me is that I fucking love bad movies. Like I love I just love watching movies. I have a great love of B movies and trash cinema and whatever. So I'm never going to criticize somebody for liking something even though it's bad. And The Shape of Water is really bad. So, go for it.
It's like a challenge accepted. I want to find that film, or you'll be like, okay, I'll criticize you for that.
Absolutely. I think our stance is, go on.
I was just going to say, I like everything. So when I really dislike something, it's very weirdly enjoyable for me. I got so excited about talking about this movie. As I was like, what am I going to talk about? What's something that I like that nobody else likes? And there's so many options. But when I was like, no, it would be more fun for me to dislike something because I get so much weird joy out of that, I knew immediately that I was going to talk about Shape of Water. It was like no contest.
I just like having these sort of discussions, which is why it's not fun to be on this show. Like win or lose, I just love the dialogue of talking about it, especially when someone's out of the norm. Like I hate it even though everyone else thinks it's good, or I like it even though everyone thinks it's bad.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, my boyfriend also hated it, and that's not just like him pandering to me. He truly hates this movie. We saw this movie. It was like one of the last things we saw on our when we had Movie Pass. Going to movies and seeing people in real life. That was great. Remember that?
I remember theaters.
Yeah. And people.
Don't date us too much. We're evergreen content here.
Oh, they're going to be closed in about 5 months. Don't worry about it. We're not dating.
But we went to this movie, and I had to see it because I'm a SAG Awards voter. So, I got to go and watch it. I was excited to see it in the theater. I was all stoked, and we left that theater, and it was like, what the fuck did we just watch? I feel dirty now. I need to... and we both are big fans of weird subversive cinema. So to have that reaction was very, very interesting. So getting to revisit why I dislike it so much was a lot of fun. It was very hard for me to keep quiet while you guys were in the jury room. I was like, I kept opening my mouth and being like, no, they're in the jury room. I can't see them. I can't hear them.
Thank you
I'm
so
not
much
in
for
there.
respecting. So few people respect the jury room. They just barge in there.
Yeah,
It
no,
happens
I mean, like,
every week.
Well,
There are
including
rules to our imaginary walls.
I don't want to be held in contempt of court. I take my fake lawyer job very seriously.
Thank
As you
you.
should. It's an honor.
Yeah, I don't know much about lawyering, but I know that you can't just go wandering around yelling at people. You gotta do
That's
your
actually
thing.
a big part of lawyering. And our principle is, even if a movie is found guilty, people should still see it, because, like you, we like bad movies. So
Yeah.
to us, we're just like, well, this movie's bad. It doesn't mean you shouldn't see it, and it doesn't mean you shouldn't like it, but you should recognize it's bad. Which this one wasn't, unfortunately. So
Like,
there you go.
beyond the
I knew you were going to
qualifier,
say something.
beyond the qualifier,
Yeah,
we
exactly.
like movies. Just
Yeah.
period.
Yes, exactly.
The
We like
idea
movies.
of movies, beyond what a movie is, just the idea that people make them is a good feeling.
I know Ben would have liked this film more if the Fishman had tentacles.
We had to get there.
I plead the fifth here. I plead the fifth.
Anyway, so Lisa, what else you got going on lately? What's keeping you busy?
Lots of I'm like exercising a lot at home on my yoga mat. I'm baking bread. Lots of at home stuff. But I actually just recently recorded a radio play that is going to be coming out very soon for people to watch, which I'm really excited about. It's a scary story, and I'm the lead in it, which is exciting for me. We got to go into a professional recording studio, and I got to scream my head off and do a bunch of different stuff. It was really fun. But that's Dread of Night Radio Theater. That'll be coming out really soon.
Yep. And I know our friend of the podcast, Kirk Thatcher, was involved in that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, he's great. I think he's basically our horror host of that series. So I think he may be. I'm not 100% sure. I think he may be continuing with future episodes. I'm the lead of this one episode, which is called The Cabinet.
Well, if
Is
they're
it like
smart,
a
they'll
Twilight
get you
Zone
back
sort of
on.
thing, or
Sorry, what?
is it like a Twilight Zone sort of episodic thing?
Yeah. Like and then full old style radio show with sound effects and Foley and music and all that. So that was a lot of fun. That was kind of the last thing I finished before quarantine.
For all of this.
Yeah, before the world and all of the things went away.
So it's Dread of Night Theater. So follow them on YouTube.
Yeah.
And all over social media.
Yeah. And then other than that, I've got a few little things working that I can't necessarily talk about yet, but a few irons in the fire. But if people want to see some of what I've done, I was in a movie called Happy Hunting that's available on video on demand. It's a weird action horror desert thriller thing. You get to see me shoot people with a big gun and laugh about it,
Cool.
which is a lot of fun because that's not normally how I get cast. So it was a really good chance to play against type.
I miss those old weird action western hunter thriller thing sections in the video stores. Remember video stores?
Yeah. Oh my god.
I remember.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff in my past that would be in the cult favorite section if you went to a good video store.
Oh, absolutely.
If anybody knew about them.
People follow you on social media, like Instagram or Facebook or something? Or?
Oh yeah, do it. On Instagram, I'm Hanson L. That's Hanson with an O-N and then just the letter L. My name's tricky to spell, but I'm sure you can write it down somewhere. Anyway,
We will.
yeah, follow me on all the things. And if people like, weird trash cinema, like we were talking about before, I am the lead of a movie that you can find places on the internet called Planet of the Vampire Women, which was shot in Sacramento years ago. That's still floating around somewhere out there. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it
Space-
sounds
It just sounds like a movie I just like see it like float by and be like, watch it, done.
Yeah.
all vampire.
All low budget, all space pirates and space vampires. So if you really want to deep dive,
any relation to Planet of the Vampires, the Mario Bava movie?
Somewhat inspired by, but not following the same beats.
Gotcha.
But I love Planet of the Vampires, so nicely caught.
Oh, Ryan will catch him.
That's what I'm here for.
Nice.
Yeah, we keep Ryan around because he actually watches movies.
Hell yeah.
We just watched
He's
the
our
one,
he's
you
our
know, the
knowledge
one.
bank. I'm surprised he didn't know the "Let Me Hear You Whisper" play. I bet he did. He just didn't want to tell us.
Nice.
No, he was whispering the whole time. That was a problem.
Oh, that might be it. So, Liesel, do you have a suggestion for a movie that people should check out?
Oh hell. Of course, now I've got that record store paralysis. You're like, what movie is good? I'm like, I've never seen a movie before, so I don't
We'll hold
even.
you to it. Your pick goes on the wall.
This is sort of totally apropos of nothing, but as we were talking about liking bad movies, there is a bad movie, truly bad, I think, that I'm completely obsessed with right now, that I keep trying to convince more people to watch, which is called Drive Hard. Have any of you seen this movie?
I have
Ryan?
not.
No, I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
It's one of those. It's exactly the intersection between terrible and super enjoyable. It's right in that sweet spot. It's John Cusack and Thomas Jane basically in an Australian drug-fueled buddy adventure movie. And if I recall correctly, they both wear sunglasses through the entire movie. They both seem and I don't know anything about these guys. Maybe this is all acting choices, but they both seem high off their asses the entire time. It's so much fun.
It's an acting choice. Leave me alone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, and it just is such a delightful, strange, messy disaster. It's just fun every second.
Currently holding at 8% on Rotten Tomatoes. So
Ooh,
we
so
like
Wheels of Justice near you, perhaps.
Yeah.
That one in the queue.
Yeah, that would
Wait,
definitely.
wait.
And
Did you say 8%?
8%.
Oh boy, I really know how to pick them, huh? It's
Yeah,
great.
exactly.
It's
Yeah,
great.
no, that's what we like. And by the way, totally apropos of nothing was an alternate title to this podcast.
Oh, nice. Well, all right then.
But then we said, Rob, that's stupid, and we did a good name.
Mr. Schlender, as you were judge, we'll let you go first on your suggestion for a movie.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, I'm going to keep the Cold War theme and aesthetics going and communist dying going and recommend The Death of Stalin, which was a hilarious movie starring Steve Buscemi as Nikita Khrushchev. And it's a great movie. If you like the Cold War, watch this movie. It's really fun.
All right, great. Ryan, what do you have for us this week?
To piggyback on something that was said during the closing arguments that maybe the Oscars are meaningless, I want to recommend a movie that was probably my favorite of last year that did not get nominated for shit. Terrence Malick's A Hidden Life. The most beautiful looking film I've ever seen in a theater. And I think it's streaming on Amazon right now. Check it out.
And
It's
Terrence
A Hidden
Malick,
Life?
and it's a quick, jaunty 5 hours long, isn't it?
Yes. 3 hours and 4 minutes, but it does feel a lot longer.
Oh,
But it's
wow.
great.
3 hours and 4
It's
minutes.
It is like hidden gems. You know, they're hiding. So that's why they didn't get picked.
Such a good movie. Oh,
Exactly. Hidden Life. Okay. Ben, what do you got for us?
I mentioned it quite a few times, but everyone should see Creature from the Black Lagoon if you haven't. It is a great film. It's everything you imagine like a 50s monster movie should be.
I watched it last night after watching Shape of Water. I immediately
Do not
put on
watch the
Creature from
sequels.
Black Lagoon.
Watch the first one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes, definitely
Revenge of
avoid
the
the
Creature,
sequels.
Creature Walks Among Us. The sequels aren't. They're not too bad. Come on.
The third one is possibly the worst thing I've ever seen. But the first one's great.
Yeah, it's true. So for mine, I'm going to reach into my bag of tricks and recommend Dr. Otto and the Riddle of the Gloom Beam, which is Jim Varney's first feature-length film. Jim Varney, of course, known for playing Ernest.
So we're going to get like 14
14
Ernest things all in chronological order from here on out.
Exactly. You're going to get nothing but Ernest movies from me. But check this one out because he's really not Ernest. Ernest has a very small cameo in it, but mostly he is a mad scientist bent on destroying the world economy. And he has like a machine that allows him to like shapeshift into other people. So that's where he's doing his
Ooh.
gimmick of playing other characters. So he
Nice.
he becomes his Australian, he becomes the old woman, and everything. So there's, if you really want to see early Varney, but you don't want to watch an Ernest movie, there it is, Dr. Otto and the Riddle of the Gloom Beam, and I think it may also be on Prime right now.
Oh, that sounds
So-
like
Yes.
fun.
That one is fun. I know you would love that one, Lisa.
Yeah,
I'm so
sold.
that's all all we have time for this week. Liesel, thank you so much for coming on. You did a wonderful job.
It
Thank
was
you so
such
much.
fun debating this with you. You were a great opponent.
We really hope you come back too and either defend something or prosecute something else. Anytime you're welcome here on the show.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
All right. Thanks for listening. That's all the time we have for On the Reels of Justice, and we'll catch you next time.
Later.
Farewell.
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, on Instagram, Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.